Alrighty, welcome everybody to another episode of Lakers Detailed. I'm your host Vinay with Raj. Apologies for the late start. Raj and I were discussing a very thrilling, well, not so thrilling, two games that we had a little bit earlier today, but a very exciting uh, situation with the Celtics losing Game Five, which is always a win for the Lakers, especially when it's in the playoffs. As always, we appreciate all the folks that tune in on this Tuesday evening. I know it's very late, so regardless of whether you're here live or you end up listening to it later, we're always appreciative. But we've had pretty much a solid 24 hours now to absorb the pandemonium of a game that we watched, the thriller of a game we watched. I'm just going to call it the Lonnie Walker game. Raj, how are
Mhm.
you feeling after the game last night?
Oh man, I'm not sure we could have asked for a better 24 hours from like the basketball gods. The Lakers go up 3-1 in their series after just a tough, excruciating game. And then the Boston Celtics, Vinay, the 2 seed in the Eastern Conference, get booed off their home floor by the Philadelphia 76ers with James Harden and Doc Rivers, with Joel Embiid obviously leading the way. This has been a pretty great day, and you know what? I would actually like one more day to enjoy it if that was possible, but I'm not going to get that. We have a game tomorrow at the Chase Center, but I'm doing great. A beautiful Tuesday night, a little calm before the storm. There's some clouds out there that are kind of showing a precursor to rain tomorrow. I don't know what that means for the game, but yeah, I'm doing great, man. How are you doing?
Yeah, man. I am. Yesterday was nerve wracking, but it. As soon as I saw LeBron come out locked in the fourth quarter and finally decide to do a help side rotation after a very lazy three quarters of defense on the defensive end of basketball, I was like, all right, man, we got a chance. Like we came out, we were down like seven within like the first minute. We go on a run and tie the game, and I was like, okay, this team's not going to let me down in a crucial situation where we can go up 3-1. But um, at the end of that game, man, like
Oh
that was
man.
as relieved as I've felt in a long, long time after a game. Like just because of the sheer panic, because I mean, Steph was incredible last night. Like he didn't have a good efficiency night, but he was just incredible that whole game. And I was just like, I don't know if we're gonna pull this off because this guy's just going crazy right now. And just the relief at the end of the game, I was just like, oh, thank God. I went. I'll tell you this. I went this morning coffee. I pick up my coffee from Starbucks every morning on the way to work, and the guy,
Hmm.
the dude that like is the general manager or whatever of the store, he's a Lakers fan. So like we always talk about Lakers. Some short 2 minute conversation about the Lakers,
Yeah.
and big smiles on both of our faces because yesterday night was freaking ridiculous. From that game was ridiculous.
I I want out of the Steph War business. You know what I mean? Like
Oh my
I
God.
think this has been enough. It's been 4 games of it. I think the Steph War business, got used to it. I'm familiar with it now. But yeah, that was it was exciting, man, to be part of it. Still in this, like, I miss these moments, and also it's sickening to the gut, like, to watch, so you have to kind of tell yourself this is way better than watching us like struggle against the Charlotte Hornets, where
Yeah.
we're kicking the ball out to Dennis Schroeder for three while LeBron loses his shoe. Like, those are moments that actually happened this year, and now we're in, like, Anthony Davis has to stop Steph Curry twice. Like, it's a much better
Yeah.
pick your poison struggle, and this has been a lot more enjoyable to where we're at. So when I say it out loud, it's just still one win away from the conference
One win
finals. Like,
away from the conference finals. That is absolutely crazy. And even just trying to predict some of this stuff, like after the trade deadline, just like again, just on reflection, it's just nuts to see stuff like that happen. Before we continue, I also want to shout out I want to shout out Alex Caruso. He got an all defensive
oh
nomination today,
yes.
his first all defensive team nomination. I think Laker fans were very, very much on top of that back when Twitter was telling us he was a meme player, and it's very cool. I just wanted to shout him out because I think it's very cool that like we finally got to see him be like the top of what we probably thought he could be, which was an all defensive team caliber role player. So shout out to
It,
him too as
it,
well.
it's sad that Lonzo, isn't able to play and,
Yeah,
be a part of that. But I remember when they got Caruso, I was like, they might have like the best defensive backcourt, like,
yeah,
in the league. And people thought I was crazy. But yeah, Caruso's been that guy for a long time. He's rocking the wrong jersey, but it's all right. Deserves the first team all defense nod that he got, and that he got an all defense first team all defense on a ninth seed. Like that kind of tells you, look, there's issues with that award that I'm sure we have ourselves, but I think that tells you, like, number one, his standing in the league, and number two, like, his impact on that team, where a 9 seed that didn't even make the postseason, right? They had the playing game that they lost both games, and that guy got first team all defense. You don't usually see that. And so, yeah, congrats to him. That contract looks insanely valuable now. You have an
Yeah,
first defense guard on a, I think, less than $10 million deal. So a steal for Chicago. But yeah, happy for him. Deserved. Been that guy for a long time. Didn't learn how to play defense from Patrick Beverley this year. Like, he's been a defender for
he's
quite
been
some
that guy.
time. He's
Yeah,
been that guy. Yes. Yes.
yeah. So props to him. Always happy to see young Lakers step up. Continues to be a testament to how good the scouting on this team has been, just for years now. With Joey, Jesse, Ryan at the time, I think
Yeah.
Nick Mazzella, the other guy that's also been part of the process for a while, part of the Lakers org. So let's just jump into it. That game last night was there was no, like, it looked like at some point maybe the Lakers were going to get blown out, but we got contributions from a lot of different people at different times. It felt like every time the Warriors were like on the precipice of blowing the game out, um, Austin Reeves or Anthony Davis would step up and knock down a couple of shots to bring the game back within 7 points, 8 points. Even Braun had a moment, I would say, like at the start of the third quarter, where they went on him and Austin came out with like a barrage of threes. So a lot of that roller coaster of emotions that you expect to have against this Warriors team happened all throughout the game. And we'll get into those specific performances. But the very first thing that we should probably talk about is what the adjustment was that they ended up making, which was putting Gary Payton in the starting lineup and taking
Yeah.
JaMychal Green out of the starting lineup. You and I both sort of predicted that if they made a starting lineup change, there's only two ways they could really go. Either they're going back to their original starting lineup of Draymond and Looney, or they were going to play, I thought, would be Jordan Poole and go all offense. And they actually did go smaller, but they didn't go with Jordan Poole. They went with Gary Payton.
Yeah.
And that hurt us. Like, he was slipping screens. He wasn't even, I don't even think he was screening half the time. He was literally slipping as soon as Anthony Davis came up and getting layup after layup after layup. And that was killing the Lakers for a lot of that game. What did you think about that adjustment and how the Lakers kind of approached that?
Yeah, it's funny because then you look at the JaMychal Green adjustment 2 days ago, right? And that seemed like some world beater. And then he plays 2 minutes last night, right? So it's crazy how a series kind of evolves. But yeah, I thought that was a really nice move from them. I tweeted before the game when that was announced 2 hours early. And then Steve Kerr said, they have a mole in their franchise,
Wait,
basically.
did he say that? Did he actually say they have a
He
mole?
didn't say the
Oh,
word mole, but he says we have an operative that's like talking to Shams before games, which is great. I'm sure that's exactly what you want to hear before a
there's
game.
only one guy. There's one guy that they're looking at. That's probably revealing
Ooh,
that
oh, is that? I hope.
because
Well,
he
we can
shares
get
the
into.
same age. He works for the same agency as Shem. So I
Oh,
mean,
really? Okay.
yeah.
I'll ask
So
you. I'll definitely got to get into that. But but no, like, yeah, the GP2 thing worked. GP2 is a much more instinctual guy than JaMychal Green is. He's much more of a cutter. I think he's like more dynamic as well as a roller. He's also a lob threat to a sense. They throw up lobs to him even more than JaMychal Green. But I thought his just impact. I thought he sped them up, and then I feel like we overreacted a little bit to Steph coming off of those. AD showed a little too high, and then that backline. I know we're gonna give LeBron some love later, but I feel like the the help defense just was not there. A lot of
yeah,
looking and standing from D'Lo, from LeBron on those backsides, and he
yeah,
killed us with that. And we talked about it. We're like, if Steph's gonna cook you on the ball, like, you kind of have to go kind of live with that. It's when the Warriors put you in their wheelhouse, and GP2 was able to do that. Swung the ball around. DiVincenzo got a few threes from it. Yeah, it hit us for a little bit, but we adjusted when in game, which was really cool to see, which we'll get
yeah,
into, I'm sure, later. But I thought, yeah, the GP2 thing, it sped them up. It also got GP2 on D'Lo, and just kind of ball pressured him to be a little bit more uncomfortable. Not
yeah,
necessarily the shots he took, but he passed up somewhere before he was kind of aggressive. I thought that really mucked
yeah.
things up where Steph also didn't have to guard him. So yeah, very, very nice adjustment from Steve Kerr to start.
Yeah, I would say that they basically traded maybe the shooting from or they expected the shooting that they were hoping
Hmm.
out of Jermichael and the defensive size. They opted for defensive speed, and I think that's probably the best way to describe what Gary Payton. He's actually a pretty good guard rebounder too, like similar to like a guy like Alex Caruso, and so that made sense. I don't think I wouldn't say he wiped out D'Lo, but D'Lo had a awful shooting night last night after a really good game
Yeah.
three, and then Austin was kind of up and down in the first half, and then he just took off again. Second half, he gets a few minutes of rest because Lonnie's in the rotation, and he takes off. He was phenomenal in the second half, but they clearly like went to Austin because GP was on. Gary Payton was on D'Lo. Like D'Lo
Hmm.
was not running the offense at all. They gave some spot possessions to Schroeder, but he was having like a very inconsistent game with the way that he was playing, and so it was very interesting to see them do it. I was very shocked at how bad the weak side defense. Like it wasn't like they were getting. It wasn't like they weren't capable of doing it. It just felt like the Lakers were really lazy.
Yeah.
LeBron, D'Lo, whoever it was, and there were so many instances I thought, and then that's why that was like probably the thing that gave me the most anxiety because I was just like, I know LeBron's watching Dante DiVincenzo cut on the baseline and grab these offensive rebounds. Like there and like he let it happen like once or twice. I was just like, he's not going to just keep letting this happen over and over again, right? Because we're not going to win. And the very last possession of the game, where Steph gets like two shot attempts, Andrew Wiggins like gets around LeBron's box out and gets his
Yeah.
hands on the ball to create another possession. And I thought the speed that the Warriors were playing with, it's probably desperation. There's tons of stuff.
Hmm.
Like the speed that they were playing with, like really could have done the Lakers in if we hadn't kind of picked up our play in the fourth quarter.
Let me ask you, how worried were you when they went up 12 in the second quarter? I guess I think that's kind of where I was a little bit worried, like, oh
Yeah.
shoot, because it was a really low scoring game. Like we could not get baskets, and our first play of the game actually, AD step back jumper, he made it,
Hmm.
showed some aggression, but we just could get nothing offensively going. So when they went on that like second quarter run there, Steph pushing the pace. I think Steph was even off, like he wasn't even on the floor when they got it to 12. Clay hit like a transition three. I was like, oh crap. But like, how worried I guess were you in that kind of? That's the tense part playing the Warriors because like
Yeah.
a 10 point like when they're down 10, it feels like it's tied, and when they're up 10, that feels like an avalanche, just the way
Yeah.
that they score. So take me through that before we get to like the second half where they kind of take over. How'd you feel like when they were down 12 and like that
Yeah.
kind of panic there? Because the way we were playing, it felt very. You could hear it in the crowd as well. The oh shit, is this really about to happen? Are we really about to lose right here? In game four. So yeah, how'd you feel in terms of that moment?
Yeah, I think panicked is like the perfect term for it because they can like the Warriors are like one of those teams where they know that once they get it to 12, they can probably start going for those home run balls, and if they feel good about them, like if
Yeah,
Clay and Steph feel good about when they take them, that it can go from 12 to 20 in like less than 30 seconds with the way that they play, and another part of it that was worrying me was like we were giving them so many runouts. It felt like it just felt like they were getting up the floor way faster than us. You could tell very clearly. Like I think Anthony Davis fell down maybe three times on my
yeah.
count. Like they every single time, like it was like they were like, oh my god, we got a 5-on-4. We're gonna go score on this play, like no matter what. And I was very panicked. And but I mean, like I said, like Austin comes down. I think one of the possessions we were down 10. Austin comes down, makes a mid-range jumper, and then
Yeah.
he gets Dennis to pass him, and he takes like this open three, and he like immediately just cuts right into the lead. Like we never let them get so much consistent momentum that we couldn't battle back from. But yeah, what was going through your mind like once they were pushing it to double digits?
I was just wondering where is our scoring coming from, right? Like because LeBron
Yeah,
just could not get going, and I think that was the most like heartbreaking part about it because you could tell he was trying to dip into that tank, and
yeah,
like it just wasn't there. You know what I mean? He's just grabbing air. He's like trying to
yeah,
grab something out the tank. There was just nothing there. So that was the struggle through it. But yeah, that Austin quarter, because obviously we're gonna get into Lonnie and all that,
yeah,
but man, those threes were, and it wasn't even that open. Like the DiVincenzo one, he kind of helped at the nail, came back and contested it, swished it through. Uh, you talked about it. Pull up mid range on
Yeah.
Steph. Like have his those just big. That's just a big time quarter from like a guy where we have nothing going and we're like, yeah, just give it to Austin Reeves and have him carry us, which I thought that's just insane, Vinay. That like that's where we're here. Like we're here, we're like,
Yeah.
there's no offense going. We go to our second year guard, first time playoffs, and he's like a lot of the conversation around him and deservedly, I guess, is like where he just wasn't able to score in the series. And I think both of us added the context. Like he's chasing Clay Thompson and Steph Curry around
Yeah.
like all game. That's a lot on your legs. And for him to hit those shots, I think that was the precursors, obviously to Lonnie carrying the fourth. But Austin Reeves, man, what a third quarter to like save us as that's where the Warriors put teams away. The third quarter is what they're
Right.
known for. That's their like dynasty is kind of wrapped around absolutely running you off the floor in the third quarter. And they almost did it there. 4 minutes
Yeah.
left. We're down 12 before he comes back the other way and hits a three. Those are big. That kind of saved the game. And then Dennis got a steal on the inbound, I think,
Yeah.
and then got the layup to cut it to 5. And that's where I kind of calmed down. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
it's going to be tight throughout. We're not about to get the doors blown off us right here. So, yeah, huge momentum shifters there.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where it's just like AD carried us like the first half, Austin carried us the third quarter, and then or Austin prevents the game from turning into a blowout in the third quarter is probably a better way to say it. And then in the fourth quarter, we get the Lonnie Walker quarter, which was like it was nuts, dude. Like when I say I thought I was gonna have a stroke every time he took Steph in ISO, like you could see what the play was. You could see Braun, like they were even using D'Lo as a decoy as like that initial screen just to see what the Warriors would do. But it was always going to be Braun calling for whoever Steph was guarding to come and screen for them. And I would bet that I would be a betting man that the Warriors probably intentionally had Steph on Lonnie because they wanted the Lakers to run their offense through Lonnie. And it's just Lonnie was unbelievable. Like he got in the shooting zone.
Oof.
The three that he took off of LeBron's pass at the top of the arc. First of all, he didn't even think twice about shooting that three. As soon as he got it, he turns right over to his left, right into rhythm, lets it fly, nothing but net. And I was just like, all right, like we're getting something out of him offensively. So that's great floor spacing wise. And then just to watch him, like they just let him play, dude. Like him and Austin, like even Austin had a couple buckets in the fourth quarter that were really nice.
Yeah.
Like Lonnie was just going shot for shot with that entire Warriors team. And that is nuts to see a guy who was cut out of our rotation completely after the trade deadline,
Mm-hmm.
stepping up in these moments and literally, like we said this about game one against Memphis, like Rui just bursting onto the scene, putting up 29 points and winning a game for us. We have a Rui Hachimura game. We have a Austin Reeves game. And now we have a freaking Lonnie Walker, the fourth game, like during this run. And it's unbelievable game by that guy, man.
Yeah, and I always heart back because I think the whole season. I still think it matters that 2-10 start. The shimmer of like hope was like, oh, Lonnie's kind of like Lonnie's good, and you were like,
Yeah.
yeah, like you told me about his San Antonio shooting and like how like the numbers kind of were kind of blinding. Like,
Hey, let me give because other people don't know this. So, like me and you had a very deep conversation. So,
yeah,
for the folks that don't know, early on in the season, when like me and Raj, like, obviously we talk all the time. Like I remember compiling a bunch of tape on Lonnie because I literally sat through 3 seasons of his jump shooting to try and figure out why he was having issues as a jump shooter. And I'm not a shooting expert. I was just trying to see if there's something behavioral that was happening
yeah,
with him. And I remember I messaged you and I said, Raj, this guy is going to be really good for us. And I said, I know the numbers don't reflect it, but he loves getting down. And this is when we had Russ at the time. And I was just like, he
right,
loves getting downhill. And if he gets downhill once or twice in a game, then he finds his rhythm and his jump shot comes to him. And I was just like, just wait till he plays for us next to LeBron and he starts getting downhill. You'll see it. And like you were on board with it. And then we saw it and he was averaging 15 a game. And it's just like, we knew it. Like we knew it when the season started, and it's just crazy to see it now. But sorry, I interrupted you.
no,
Go for it.
you're good. No, because I think I was like, well, he's shooting like like I know that I was like, it looks pretty. Like I
Yeah,
gave you that. I remember I was like, it looks really pretty, but like the open threes and are like at 20s or some percentage. But after the All-Star break, I think that was the number. It was at like 40 something percent. And I loved his like usually players at press conference are pretty confident, but they're like, he's like, leave me open. Like that was
Yeah.
a term he said. He's like, I dare you. Like, yeah, I dare teams to leave me open because I can actually shoot. But it wasn't just that. It was like our late game again. No one cares because when you're 2-10, no one cares
Nobody cares. Yeah.
how you're playing, what's going on. Have you traded everyone yet? That's kind of that's the conversation. But we're
Yeah.
like, Lonnie and AD are kind of running pick and roll, and like we're getting our wins off that. Like we
Yeah.
won it. We won 2 games against San Antonio because our late game offense was like Lonnie Walker and Anthony Davis. Which like again, no one cares now, but it's cool to see him now kind of in that spotlight. And he missed, he was out of the rotation for 30 games. Like that's a
Yeah.
lot to just sit there and watch as Malik Beasley, I'm sure, like is firing up shots that he thinks he should take, but my favorite moment in that fourth quarter, you talked about the 3. We were down 7. That's a huge shot, by the
Yeah.
way. In transition, kick it, he fires that in. But in out of bounds play, where I think we're still down like 5, he curls off an AD screen,
Yeah.
catches in rhythm, raises and drills it. I was like, oh,
Yep.
like
That's
he's feeling good. Like, go
that's a
ahead.
KCP set. That we used to run that for
Yeah.
KCP all the time.
Yeah, and Lonnie's like like he's shooting on the way down. Like that's how
Yeah.
athletic he is. Like that's his jumper, and it looked clean. He had that one fake spin. Steph fell and he airballed it, but I was like,
I
oh,
wish he
like
had. I wish he had made that. That would have gone by. Like I think every single Laker fan. I was like, oh my god, if he makes this, I was watching it on my computer and I stood up and I was like, oh, but then he missed it. I was like, oh,
yeah, and so yeah, and then he just gave a like push of, and we talked about him after game, like after the the blowout game. We're like,
yeah,
hey, like Lonnie kind of looked legit. Like he had a really nice fourth quarter. We'll see if he plays in the next one. And he gives us like just juice and athleticism. I think I said on our last space that this team just desperately kind of needs. Like
hmm
D'Lo, obviously being 1 for 10 was a big reason that Lonnie was out there. But again, like during that 2-10 start, no one cares, but like he was defending well. And we talked, I think in the last one too, we talked about, hey, Lonnie's kind of defending Damian Lillard really well. Like
yeah,
no one's seeing that, but like, yeah, and you watch him against Clay and Steph, and it kind of shines out. Like, hey, he's staying with these dudes, and he's running around with them. So it's awesome to see him take advantage. And that pull up over Steph, man, that was like, we were down 1 at that point. Like it
yeah,
wasn't a tie game. We didn't have the lead secured. We're down 1. I think it's 94-95 Golden State. And through the legs, pull up jumper over a contested Steph jump shot.
yeah.
Just was an insane night
That
for him.
was. I was gonna say in the YouTube chat here, Waiver Acers mentioning it. Like Lonnie had an ISO possession against Wiggins right in the middle of the floor at the free throw line, where Wiggins tried to like dream shake him into like going in the wrong direction. Lonnie stayed with him the entire way and
Yeah,
forced him to take a tough miss. Dude, his like it's not just his shot making. It's just like you could tell. Like at some point, I was talking to like in my friends group chat. I was like, he was in like a zone, dude. Like
yeah,
he was pulling up with confidence. He wasn't thinking twice about it. I know Draymond came out today and he said like, oh, we did a good job of like limiting AD and LeBron, so you kind of have to live with Lonnie Walker. Like I'm pretty sure there's people, Warrior fans out there that are saying, no, we're not living with Lonnie Walker. Like
yeah.
anybody who's watched Lonnie and knows he's capable of scoring is being like, no, your scouting report should just known like he is capable of getting hot like this sometimes. And you can't just be like, oh yeah, oh well, Lonnie beat us. Like that it's the playoffs, bro. You can't be okay with
Can't give
losing
away
any
games.
games. Yeah, you can't give away games like that. But it's just phenomenal play by him. It's a really, really nice moment for him. Considering and he's been a pro. I think Braun came out and said that he's been staying ready. And Braun did that thing where he said, I told Lonnie, don't worry, like stay ready, we're gonna need you. It's like,
Yeah, yeah,
okay.
yeah,
It's like, okay, yeah. But one other person I want to give credit to is Darvin Ham because he didn't go back to D'Lo at the end of that game. He kept Lonnie on the
right.
floor. So I think we're always kind of peppering in praise to Ham. Like this was another game where I thought Ham did a really nice job keeping the right guys to close the game out. Dennis had some boneheaded mistakes, turnovers. The
Oh, behind the
the
back.
the spin into the I don't again. I tweeted out. I was like, bro, I don't know what you were thinking when you did this, but I understand why Dennis was in the game. Like he was doing a good job playing defense. He was the guy who was on Draymond when Draymond throws that turnover to Anthony Davis
Mm-hmm.
on that hammer action play that they tried to set up at the end of the game. So it's like They did. Like I thought Ham coached a pretty good game too as
Oh
well.
yeah. The last thing on Lonnie, so I've heard that a lot. The stay ready, right? LeBron saying stay ready. Usually, what that entails is stay ready because LeBron and AD are gonna gather so much attention that you're gonna have open looks. That's usually what
Yeah,
that means.
yeah,
That's not what happened though. That's not what happened. What happened was Lonnie's like, I'm just gonna take these. I'm not waiting for us to throw it in the post, AD. And we did something. We just went away from AD. Draymond was like heavily physically, and they let everything go that night
yeah.
on both sides. On both sides. So I'm not complaining here, but they just let everything go. And we're like, we're just gonna go away from that. We hunted Steph mercilessly, like every single
Beautiful.
possession. I
And
don't think I've ever.
they let
Yeah, go ahead.
Braun dictate it, which was perfect.
Yes,
They said
yes.
Braun, take it. You decide when this play is going to be run. And I thought Braun did a fabulous job leaving enough time on the clock for them to be able to attack Steph. Like earlier in the season, he was pounding it a little bit too much, like giving them only 6 seconds to attack. But I thought like he gave it to Lonnie with like 10, 12 seconds left. Like, okay, go do your thing.
we, we did it so often that like the Warriors were pre-switching before it and we
Yeah,
still got the look we
yeah,
wanted. So like he's like calling up Steph and Steph is like, "Oh, are you serious again?" And then like he's like, "Hey, like get in position." And then like Clay and him would switch their guys. And then we
yeah.
would just screen again with whoever Steph is guarding.
Beautiful.
It was insane to watch this all unfold in a 24-second shot clock. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
just to watch that like every possession. And LeBron's done this a million times to Steph and other guards. And yeah, he'd go in the post and they would eventually double. We get, Lonnie Walker on some attacks. And some of those Lonnie's like, I got Steph on me. Yeah, like let me just go score these. And I thought that was just it. Like you said, it was beautiful to watch us run like very sophisticated offense. You've talked about the freestyling that
yeah.
happens so many times in that fourth quarter. Like, should they have gone to AD a little bit more? Probably. But I
Probably.
just,
Yeah.
yeah, but I like the structure in it. Just, hey, like, this is what we do. Like, the Warriors, you know what they're doing. Steph has the ball. He's attacking. We're like, we're going to hunt you every single time and make number one, makes him work. And number two, it puts guys in a pretty simple position there, other than the bonehead couple plays from Dennis Schroeder where, the behind the back pass.
I don't know what he was. He had a. I was shocked he even threw that pass because I was like, oh, I thought that was a great move. Steph tried to set up a charge and Dennis spinning off of it. He
Yeah.
couldn't set it up, and I was just like, oh, he's gonna get a layup here. And then he just like, I don't know why he tried to. Maybe because Steph threw that behind the back pass earlier in the game,
Yeah.
and so he wanted to do some razzle dazzle. But I was just like, no. Like I think even AD was like, what are
Yeah, I
you
know.
doing?
Yeah, and then they went the other way and scored. I was like, oh, like is that would be the story of the game,
Yeah,
if not. But other than that, I thought like our offense was pretty sound in terms of let's get LeBron going downhill. There was one moment though, Renee, where I was like, LeBron drove on Clay and just could not
yeah,
finish it, and then Moses Moody got like a dunk. I was like, oh, like that's rough to watch him like
yeah,
try to pull one out. But no, I thought it was like I thought we our game plan was really good. Darvin Ham, you just gave him credit. Switching Anthony Davis over to Andrew Wiggins, I thought that was like a huge move to kind of keep us away from the ball screen. And then what that did, it took GP2 out. Like he
yeah.
took out GP2 and put in Moses Moody. And then from there, we were able to defend a little bit better. We were a little bit more sound. But no, that was just like a chess match. It felt like a conference finals, NBA finals type of like back and forth. You could tell the Warriors knew this was their game 7, quote unquote, and the Lakers treated it as such. Did you see LeBron go out for like 20 seconds? Like went
Yeah,
out for
yeah,
like he walked to the bench and came right back. Like, what are you? I
yeah.
was like, what's the
I
point
don't.
of that?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe like Ham. I actually don't even know what the plan was there. I thought maybe Ham thought that like the Warriors were going to call a timeout or something like that, and maybe he just want to pull.
Yeah,
You get like the extra 20 seconds for LeBron or whatever. But I guess LeBron or Ham or I don't know what it was. Maybe plans changed. I don't know what the communication was. But like even when he was subbed out, like I was just like, I don't know if there's any reason to sub out LeBron. It's not like he didn't look like he was very taxed physically,
yeah.
like in terms of energy wise. Like it seemed like he was fine doing pacing himself and whatnot. Again, like Braun had a tough shooting night, but he made all
Hmm.
his free throws, and we needed all of them to win this game. So like he did his job where he could do his job based on his limitations. So um, I
20
thought
for
that was
20
funny.
from the
Yeah,
line. 20 for 20 from the line. That's
yeah,
how many games have we lost because of free throws, right? AD was like, that's on me. That's on me. That's on in like a game we need. We hit all of our free throws. The second LeBron one made me a little nervous. It rolled in, but yeah, that was just an incredible game.
Yeah, this Jordan in the YouTube chat actually has a good point. Like he was walking back to sub himself back in when Dennis
Mm.
almost threw the ball out of bounds, passing it
Oh,
to
got you.
Osiri.
Okay.
So he probably saw he's just like, no, I'm not doing this. I'm not sitting out any
Came right
minutes.
back in.
Yeah, so probably I would say is probably the right decision. AD had a really nice first half. He was a little more quiet offensively on the second half, but I thought there's a play where
Mm.
he challenged Vando was on Steph, and he helped to challenge I think a long three that Steph took, and I forgot who it was. Like there was basically it was just like Braun and the guards that were the only guys that were back, and like all the Warriors were crashing, and it was a possession that kind of steps out of my mind because AD comes back into the play to grab this rebound, and he grabs like this one-handed rebound in traffic, like a giant
Yeah.
amongst smaller trees, and like seeing that extra effort from him, like on that end, was like another time where I was like, all right, like these guys are locked in a little bit more because that could very easily have been another possession for the Warriors. So like even though he didn't have like as big of a offensive second half, like him again deterring shots at the rim and just being present defensive rebounding wise, because that's one of the things that they were trying to do. They play smaller, they put more speed on the floor, which means they're trying to get to the rebounds before we can get to them. And
Hmm.
I thought AD did like a really fabulous job defensively. Obviously the slips were annoying, but once they wiped those out, I thought he did a really, really good job.
Yeah, so like I think the third quarter was kind of Austin's. I would say the fourth was LeBron hunting Steph with Lonnie. I thought the first quarter was AD. Like he kept us in that game. The scoring was super low for both teams, but I thought like his aggression. I talked about the first play of the game was a step back jumper over AD, and we talked about like there's different levels of his step back, and
Yeah.
he shot as a first resort, which is like very important to me for him. Like he shot it as like, no, this is like my shot instead of
Yeah.
like, oh shit, I looked around, no one's cutting, no one's helping, let me throw a mid-range pull-up, right? Those
Right.
two, they go in the box score as the exact same shot, but the aggression and the force that he took those with is
Right.
different, and he hunted those, right? The Draymond and Looney are standing right in the paint, and he's getting those pocket passes, and he hit like 3 mid-range jumpers in the first quarter. One was like the end of the shot clock, another one was like a dribble in, but I think it's important to kind of keep the defense honest there, and his defense, man, I don't know what other big man in the league like
Mhm.
can do what he's doing, and
Yeah.
like what Steph is doing offensively, to me, how I try to frame it is like what AD is doing defensively. Like he's
Yeah.
dominating series defensively, and I wish that's the way it was framed. It's not around the league. It's because defense doesn't really get the recognition that it should,
Yeah.
but the ass that we are having on him, Vinay, is absurd. Like it's insane. We talked about the offensive rebound, but like his job is to take away the three, take away the rim, and then rebound the ball. Like
That's nuts.
that's and simultaneously, right? Because the Warriors are also moving the ball. They're trying to get
Right.
up, like, and then you have maybe one of the 5 best offensive players ever in Steph Curry. Not maybe not the height of his powers, but pretty close, like at the top there. And you have to do all those things, and he's switching out 3 switches on Steph by himself, got the stop, and then obviously getting rebounds. We've made Looney unplayable somehow. Like he played
That
10 minutes
was
less.
yeah. And
Looney,
80 went right after him. Like when I think
yeah.
there's 2 possessions in a row. I forget what happened on the first one, but I know the second one, I think he drew a foul on Looney. Like
Mhm.
back, like maybe last year or earlier in the season, we would get upset that like 80 would not meet aggression with aggression, force with force, which is what you talked
Exactly.
about. Like, and like Looney was in the game. They gave 80 an ISO possession against him on the block, and he put it right on the floor or right
Yes.
into Looney to go and attempt this layup. And I just thought, like, again, something has clicked with him where he's just like, I am the best player on the floor. I'm not going to allow these guys to not let me get the shots that I want and just take whatever shots they want to allow me to take. So it's just, he had a
It's
really, really nice game.
it's the mentality, right? Like that we've talked about for him, the meeting force with Ford. There was a play with like Draymond, and like he went right at him, and this time Draymond like backed up a little bit, and he got like an and one on him. I forgot
Yeah.
exactly what the score was, but like he went right at him. The one that tied the game, that tied the game inside the paint. That should have been an and one. Like those are just forceful shots. Like in the play on Andrew Wiggins in the post, no finesse, right? like spin move to the rim, and he
Yes.
finished. Didn't get the call there, but and yeah, on defense, I've lost words to describe what he's doing. It's the second straight series where he's just completely, dominated on that end. And I thought, our defense was great. Our offense is the one that was the reason the game was close, right? I think that's the reason why the game was tighter than it was. He's just having an incredible series, man. And it's just insane. You hear about the Kevon Looney conversation coming into the series. Like, man, he just averaged 20 rebounds a game. He just
Yeah.
dominated Sabonis. AD's going to have to show. And he's in one game, he removed him from the starting lineup. We're
Yeah.
in game 4, and Looney's getting 10 minutes. Like, they're going even smaller, Renee, because
Yeah.
uh, they're like trying to match up to score. Like they're like, we're not going to be able to defend them anyway. We just have to be able to score. So they're going smaller and smaller, which is just so fascinating that they've adjusted 3 times already. And we'll see what they do next. I'm sure we'll get into that, but
Yeah.
it's insane what he's doing to this team and what he's done to Memphis already. So yeah, just crazy from him.
Yeah, and I think like just the overall effort from the guys on the wings, Lonnie, Austin, Vando, D'Lo, just
Mm,
Dennis, just chasing guys around again. Like we got hit by, we talked about it on the last episode. Like Austin was eating some crazy screens from Draymond, and it got to a point where he was eating like the screens were so bad, like borderline. I would say borderline offensive fouls that like he was like he couldn't keep following Steph, and like he was getting
yeah.
hit. And there was actually a play in the first quarter that I was like shocked. Nobody said like he didn't get clipped. Like Draymond was like full on like a fullback leading for Steph's first three that he attempts
Hmm.
in transition that he makes. Like Draymond is literally just like football, like a fullback blocking the person that's trying to defend him. And I was just like, no, like this is okay. Like we're not doing anything about this for whatever it is. Obviously they won't call it, but like to see them continue to fight through it. Dennis did a phenomenal job selling some. Like Lonnie sold one of those screens
Yeah.
into an offensive foul, and I think Steve Kerr talked about it today. He was upset about like he thought it was embellishing or flopping or whatever when it came to it.
Very
But
rich. Yeah.
but look, if that's the only way to show the refs that you guys are throwing illegal screens, if you believe them to be illegal screens, um, and the refs are looking for that reaction, so be it. Like yesterday, I watched Jordan Poole drive by D'Angelo Russell, be directly in front of the rim for a point blank layup, and flail on the screen because he thought D'Lo was going to be directly behind him to try and get
Yes.
that shortstop foul, and he missed the layup towards off the other side of the rim. And I sat there, I was just like, this dude is cooked because he's looking for fouls when he has a wide open layup in front of him. And like there were plays where they had layups and they're passing him out for threes. And I'm just like, okay, dude, like I don't know what the shot selection or what you guys are trying to do on offense, but apparently Gary Payton the second is the only one who's got common sense and he's taking layups at the rim instead of
Hmm.
kicking these passes out. And it was just kind of bizarre, like after all this free throw stuff that's been going on. But like, just
Yeah.
I think the style of play and the size is just wearing down on him significantly now at this point.
Oh, 100%. And I know it's gamesmanship, and Steve Kerr even used that word. He said the Lakers have a lot of gamesmanship on their. Maybe this is it's rich from Steve Kerr, first of all, and then
He's
like
he's he's from the Phil Jackson school of coaching, so this is right in line. Phil used
I,
to complain about the fouls and stuff like that when later in the series.
I get that, but I mean, like, your team has Draymond Green on it. Like, I mean, like, it's like, it just doesn't come the same. And you watch again, like, I'm not faulting him for this. These are winning moves, quote unquote. But like, Rui got 2 offensive fouls on Steph. Steph just like fell right over. You know what I mean? Like stuff like that. And I think it's part of the game. I'm sure. It's
Yeah,
just it was disappointing to me to hear Steve Kerr after such an exciting game. That was a back and forth,
yeah,
haymakers being thrown. Lonnie Walker, Steph Curry, like hitting huge shots to come out and say, "Yeah, I'm disappointed the refs called some offensive fouls." Like, man, that's one way to look at this
yeah,
game. But the Jordan Poole aspect of it is so fascinating to me, Renee. And I think part of this is, I think I forgot who used to talk about this, but sometimes the basketball gets just so high level, like it gets to such an elite place where, like, if you're not all the way in, and I don't think it's not that Jordan Poole is not capable, because obviously last year he showed a lot
yeah,
of aspects of it. But he's obviously there's things going on, and
Yeah.
I could tell he's not in the right mindset or whatever. You can't even play. Like he played 10 minutes,
Yeah.
and every minute looked terrible. When
Terrible.
you
Yeah.
talked about that layup, he's coming off shooting 40 footers, like like in his first touch is like an off screen 45 footer. And so yeah, like if you're not even able to like if you can't focus and if you're a liability in any way, you're unplayable almost like in these
Yeah.
type of high leverage games. So I thought it's really cool to be involved in these and a team that's coalescing at the right time, that's only been together for a few months. D'Lo, even though he was here, missed like a ton of games. LeBron missed
Yeah.
a month or something like that. So this team is really just starting to get consistent games together, right? Like I think that's just insane that they're able to click this well against a team that should have more continuity than anyone, who's kind of blowing up as we speak. So I think that's fascinating. I think Jordan Poole's in the center of that for other reasons, non-basketball ones, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
interesting.
I was gonna say with Jordan, like I remember a while back, one of the things with him was like as he had tough games, like I used to always see like not even
Mm,
just Draymond, but I used to see like Clay and Steph like demonstrably like just tell him like don't worry, everything will be okay, keep playing, keep playing.
yeah.
And I'm not seeing any of that. He's just like walking back to the bench frustrated with himself. Like the very last play I saw him have was literally he takes a screen, goes to gather the ball, loses it on his own, and it goes directly to
Mm,
like a Laker player. And I was just like, bro, this guy is like he's not gonna get he's not gonna get any more playing time. So
yeah.
that game, so he's had and I'm on the same place as you. Like one bad series or a bad playoff run for whatever
Hmm.
reason doesn't undo. Like they won a championship last year, and he was a core part of their success last year to get to that to win that championship. So I don't think that undoes everything that went on, but I just think like whatever it is that's affecting him, because he's still getting good looks. He's just off. Like
Yeah.
everything is off. Like he's missing point blank layups. I don't know what it is, but whatever's messing with him, he's just like he's kind of just checked out. It seems like,
Yeah, like I guess you don't have to go. We don't have to go too long on him. My
yeah,
theory on Jordan Poole is just like he practices with Steph and Clay every day, So like, and he's sold as a splash brother.
yeah,
Those are maybe the two best shooters we may ever see.
yeah,
Like those are generational on the generational shooters. Like those guys don't exist very often. So like, and Poole got put into that. And so like, what shots do you expect him to take? Like, you
you're right,
expect him to
right,
come in and be Moses Moody? Like, no. And he got paid as such, right? He was
yeah,
rewarded with the action. So it's a lot of stuff I'm sure going on there. But I also think like our guards are physical as hell, and like
yeah,
if you're not into it, like we're chasing around, we're giving back pressure. Anthony Davis is right there, kind of dissuading you from taking a three and making you drive. And that's a lot, and I think he's part of the struggle there. And even Klay Thompson, but in 41 minutes, 9 points for Klay,
terrible game, yeah, back to back
huge,
games,
yeah. Honestly, his three at the end though had me really worried. Put them
yeah,
up three with like 3 minutes left, but like again, like he just can't get free because there's no ball. Like he's not a ball handler, like so he's not getting loose as he would in other places. So like I think our defense is really starting to tighten, where it's basically just Steph, like it's Steph creating everything, and that tax is where it's interesting. So we'll see what happens next. But I think like the tax that we're creating for Steph, and I think that's part of the misses
the
late. I think
attrition,
that's
yeah,
all. Yeah, the worry of attrition, picking on him every single offensive play. I think it all adds up to me, and I think Jordan Poole not being able to contribute at all on the
yeah.
ball is also connected to that. Where like Steph really is on an island by himself trying to create offense.
Yeah, did you? So I saw a few Warriors folks say that one of the downsides, if you can call it a downside, is when Steph is doing that much ISO or
Yeah.
that much pick and roll, it kind of freezes out guys like Clay and stuff like that from having any sort of consistent rhythm.
Hmm.
Do you think that might have been sort of the trade off of that situation last night?
Definitely. I don't think Clay touched the ball for like a very long time for a while in the first quarter, if I remember correctly. Yeah, I mean, it's just not who they are. Like they've
Right,
shifted into a team that they aren't, like so obviously like that their whole system is based to keep everyone involved, basically, especially Clay. That system, like Steph would kill in any system. Like that system's for Draymond to like accentuate what they do well, right?
right,
Draymond's a really good passer. And so when you throw it into him in the post, that's kind of where he gets going. And the Lakers are kind of just like, hey, if you want to score. And I thought one of their counters would be Draymond be a little bit more aggressive offensively.
Mhm.
Saw it a little bit, drew like a foul on D'Lo, but nothing to make us change our coverage. We're like,
Right.
if you want to score on D'Angelo Russell, Austin Reeves 1-on-1, go ahead. And like he was not able to burn them. So yeah, it definitely does. I mean, if you're not running no motion, then Clay is kind of all reliant on
Mhm.
like Steph pick and roll, creating out of that. And the Lakers are trying to keep that a 2-on-2 kind of
Yeah.
matchup and try not to leave anyone else. And I think that's why at the end of games, you're seeing like Steph's like, I got to take a step back 40-footer. I'll take a step back 30-footer, a
Yeah.
right step mid range two over Anthony Davis's contest. That's where they've kind of gone in late game offense. The Clay threes are really in transition. Like he's getting his buckets
Yeah.
early offense, transition or offensive rebounds. Other than that, we've kind of shut him out as well. So I
Yeah.
definitely think that's part of it too, though. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't think I felt like I saw a lot of heavy dosages of like Clay taking handoffs and kind of
Mm,
ISOing in that mid range area. That was something that he was doing like through the first three games of the series, and then
yeah.
last game it's kind of reduced significantly. Like this yesterday's game, like I didn't see it. Like I saw maybe one possession where he attempted one of those, and
Hmm.
outside of that, it was just very much catch and shoot, or he passed it on. So, like moving forward, like obviously tomorrow's a big game. Eh, I'm sure the Warriors will be people will be betting on them to
Hmm.
at least win the game at home. The role players will play better at home and stuff and whatnot. Uh, do you think there's another adjustment coming? Because I don't know what the other adjust. Like I already told you, they're either going back to the original starting lineup, is what I would think, or they're going
Hmm.
to play Poole. And I don't know if they're going to pull Gary Payton for Poole, just with how Poole has been throughout this entire series. So, so it's either you stick with the same lineup or you go back to Draymond and Looney starting. But then even then, like even if you win the game, the Lakers are going to adjust. Now they've seen three or four different lineup combinations that you guys are
Yeah.
going to try and run. Do you think there's any more cards in the hat? Uh, I don't even know if that's the correct phrase, but like any tricks that Steve Kerr is going to try and pull?
I think like so usually I think by game 5, like both teams are kind of aware of each other, right? Like they've kind of know everything you could. They've watched all the film. I think the last one left is what you just said, start Jordan Poole. Like Hail Mary, right? Like let's see. Like let's just go all offense, like
Yeah,
all shooting around Draymond Green, and let's just see if we can run them out of the building. Maybe the Lakers quit that game early. I think that's the only
sure,
adjustment, but they would have went to that last game if he believed in it. Like that
sure.
they don't want, like not to go down 3-1. So I don't think that's something he believes in. Ivan A don't understand the Kuminga thing. Like every time I watch
That's
Kuminga,
weird. Yeah,
I'm like, man, he's athletic as hell. He hits jump shots that I see. He seems like he understands where to be to get dump off passes, but yeah, that doesn't look like they're going to him. I doubt like after not playing the whole series, they throw Kuminga in there, like, hey, go
right.
guard LeBron James. So I doubt that's the adjustment. But to me, it's just Jordan Poole. Like, let's try Hail Mary this, see if that works, and then just more Steph on the ball, see if he can, get another huge game in. He took 30 shots in game 4.
Yeah,
It's a
well,
lot. It's a lot for
expected. Honestly, I tweeted out when Shams leaked out what their starting roster was going to be. The moment he said that, I was like, he's playing 40 minutes at least, and he's
mhm.
attempting at least 30 shots. There's no way that with Gary Payton in the starting lineup, he's not shooting almost every single time he comes down the floor.
Right, yeah, and that's a lot of attempts for him. I mean, that's 30. The game before he was at 21. Game before is 12, obviously with it was a blowout, but the game before is like 22, and then against Sacramento, game 7, it was 38, I believe that he
Yeah,
shot. Yeah, 38 shots. So like that's a lot for him to like put up while also making sure, and he had 14 assists as well, right? So
yeah,
a lot of like playmaking duties as well. That's a huge burden while getting picked on the other end, like where you have to guard LeBron, and we got him in foul trouble a little bit too. So that's the only adjustment to me. I think by game 5, just my opinion, most teams kind of know what each
yeah,
other are running, and it's like, can you stop it? And there's gonna be a point. I said this in the before when we played Memphis game 5 as well. There's gonna be a point where like the Warrior, there's a point where you can make them fold. Like there's a point in every like elimination game to me where the team that's about to go home, like you can make them feel like, oh shit, like we might actually go home. We saw
yeah,
that third quarter against Memphis. I think we cut it to like one. Anthony Davis got pulled, and then they went on a huge run again in game 5, and that was with LeBron, and everyone kind of just BSing through that game. That
Right.
was another Rui Hachimura game. But yeah, I think I think they'll come in locked in as enough as you could. I'm not sure they'll throw the kitchen sink tomorrow. Like I don't
Sure.
see that. Like I don't see LeBron and AD playing 45 minutes. Just like if we're down like 15, I doubt they're gonna play the full fourth to try to run it
Fair.
out. But I think they're gonna try. Like I think I don't think they're just gonna. I don't think they're gonna throw the game. I don't think they see the Warriors as the Memphis Grizzlies. Like I
Fair.
respect to the Memphis Grizzlies for the season they had, but like I don't think LeBron and AD and that team. I don't think they see the Warriors the same way. So what do you think? How do you see tomorrow going?
Yeah. So the attrition on both sides in terms of like just the game to game
Mm-hmm.
tiredness of it is interesting to see because like I said, like I thought yesterday would have been like even when we did the preview, we're like, I don't know if we're going to get a LeBron masterclass game, but if there was one, Game 4 would be a great time to get one of them. And he was having a tough game through 3 quarters, but he's phenomenal running the offense and playing
Yeah.
defense in the fourth quarter, which is really where we needed it from him. So it's fine if he's pacing himself, but like again, like tomorrow would be, if they play small again, like you can very clearly see how Braun can very much take advantage of the personnel that they have on the floor, whether it's Moody because they're playing Moses Moody on him when Wiggins isn't on the floor. Like they're never going to take Draymond off of AD. He's always going to be on AD. Gary
Yeah.
Payton's going to be guarding D'Lo or whichever guard that's super hot scoring wise. So it's just it's if he can do it, that's great. I don't know if we'll get that because his foot is compromised, but I'm sort of on the same boat with you. I don't think this is. I would hope that it's not going to be a game where they go in and they're like, we're okay with losing this game. I don't know if
Mm-hmm.
everybody will have that mentality because after game 2, we kind of saw that like some of the guys were locked in and some of the guys were like, yeah, it's all right. We'll
Yeah.
take the split. But I think if the game is tight, I think they will try and end it. Like they,
And
they
go
won't
for it.
mess around. Yeah. Because I think I was reading today that somebody mentioned that like if they win tomorrow, then they get like a week's worth of rest. And that's a lot.
Mm.
Like that would be
Yeah.
hugely beneficial for us. And, like the Suns lost today, but they could very easily push that series into a 7-game series
Mm-hmm.
against the Nuggets with how the role players have been playing at home. So it's like it is in their benefit to try and put them away tomorrow. Like if the Warriors don't do anything different, like maybe the home crowd does energize some of the role players, but they still don't have an answer for AD. They don't have an answer for LeBron, really, like outside of just putting up a ton of bodies in front of them. And now the role players, I think, on the Lakers side have a lot of confidence. Like they're like, oh, Austin's been having a great series. Oh,
Yeah.
Lonnie just won a game for us. D'Lo just won a game for us. So why can't we beat them at home? Like what better way? So who
I,
knows?
that's where I'm at too. And look, the Warriors are going to be desperate. They're going to fight. They're
Absolutely.
champions. But like, so I'm looking around, Vinay. Like, this is probably the smallest team I've seen like someone put against LeBron. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, they have Draymond Green, and then it's like Jordan Poole, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson with Andrew Wiggins on him, and Wiggins has done a pretty nice job ball
Yeah.
pressuring and picking him up full court, stuff like that. But like, there's a few plays where LeBron's like, let me just get in the post and I'm getting to the rim. And once he's at the front of the rim, there's no one there.
Yeah.
It's AD at the on the at the dunker spot, and Draymond does not want to leave him. So I think like look, LeBron went 10 for 25 in in the last game. I think like there should be some regression there. He was 2 for 9 from 3. I think both of us
Yeah.
agree a lot of those threes were like it's a lot better we can get there. Like
What do you think about that? Like he had a couple of plays where his first made shot of the game, I forgot to say this, was a hook shot, which I thought
yeah.
was kind of funny because I was just like, I don't think I've seen him take that shot in a long time. But I thought he had like a couple of possessions where he just kind of took that early transition three. Like, do you think that's just him trying to get himself going? Because I mean, like he's deferring to D'Lo and Austin and Lonnie, so
Mhm.
it's like he's not really getting those possessions. That's normally like start of the game, start of the third is when Braun usually puts his foot on the game
Yeah.
early on. So it's just like, what do you think about him trying to get himself in rhythm with those shots?
Yeah, it must be so frustrating for him for like, a lot of his career he was said as like not a shooter. And then he flipped
Mhm.
that, right? Like we're like, yeah, you can't just go under on LeBron that easily.
Yeah,
And then to be back at that spot we're like, hey, we're daring you again. Like that must be a mental block. And I'm not trying to psychoanalyze LeBron James here. I'm
For
just
sure.
saying like I think like that's probably tough. And those are just low energy like moves, right? Like where you don't have to do a lot. And we talked about it before, the Vando threes, the Dennis Schroeder threes, those rip some people's hair out, but that's also like very low usage offensive possessions. LeBron
Right.
dribbles in a little bit. That shot is there anytime Vando and Dennis Schroeder really want it. And I think those threes are the same. Like I think they're in that same tier of like, you know what? There's nothing really going. Like we're having like a wrestle match underneath in the paint with AD and whoever he's on. None of the guards really are moving with any type of like aggression or
Hmm.
assertiveness. So he's like, yeah, let me just pull this. And some of those were like, come on, man, like we're down 10, like you don't need that exact shot.
Right.
But yeah, like so like I'm hoping there's a little like we had a really bad D'Lo game as well. He was 1 for 10.
Yeah.
Hopefully, he doesn't go. I think that a lot of those shots were a little bit rushed, but yeah, LeBron 43 minutes. He was 10 for 25. I thought he played really well in the second half, and I think us getting him in the post is what this series is for. And I think he can really attack there. And like you said, there's not really an answer. They're going so small that like LeBron 6'10", 86'11" against 6'6", 6'7" dudes who are there front court. And then you can get any switch you want. So hopefully we have a
Yeah.
little bit of an aggression offensively. And then just to back this out, we keep stuff on the court, but like it feels like there's a lot going on in Golden State where like you
Yeah.
see the stuff coming out where like I feel like you can get them. Maybe Warriors still win, but I think they're a team that I'm not saying ready to fold, obviously, but there's a lot of stuff that's coming out of there. Like there's like off-season stories coming out. I'm like, man, it's 3-1. They're not even home yet, and
Yeah.
they're asking like, is Jordan Poole getting traded? And like stuff like that's already leaking, And I'm sure there's a
Yeah.
faucet waiting just to be open once that eventually comes to fruition, hopefully. So yeah, I just think there's a lot there, Vinay, where like you can go and steal that if you come with the right on the with the right mindset.
Yeah. I think if the Lakers take the same exact mental approach, not same exact, but if they take like the same mental approach they did, obviously they won game one, so you'd want them to be locked in the same way. But if they come in, at least from an execution standpoint,
Mm-hmm.
at least on the defensive end, just being very locked in as to we're going to get back on defense. We're going to protect the rim. We're not going to, like, all the shots are going to be in front of us. We're not going to let guys back cut us and get easy slips to the rim. I think that the defense in itself will create them opportunities that might allow them to be successful on the other end. And like D'Lo may get a bounce back game.
Yeah.
They may change that coverage. They may not put Gary Payton on D'Lo. They may go put him on Austin because we pretty much just ran everything through Austin at that point because Gary Payton was on there and on him. And if their game plan is still exactly the same, which is we want to make the other guys score in single coverage while we help on LeBron and AD, like the Lakers have seen it now for like four games. Like they know you're doing that. So Ham is going to tell his guys, go be confident and take these shots and run your offense. Don't be afraid because this is what they want to do. So you have to flip the script on them. So I think more than anything on the offensive end, if they come in locked in defensively, they can take it. It's just
Let,
I don't know what other adjustments they have.
let me ask you this: how quickly would you start switching against them? Because I think that was kind of our adjustment as well. Late, how quickly in this game? I don't think that's something. That's the one adjustment I see where like we really had trouble unless we were switching, and they're
Yeah,
kind of in the Steph Curry kind of going ballistic, and he had one of those like best in the world performances where like you could put
absolutely.
that up. You know what I mean? You could be like, oh, that's the best player in the league. Like you could say that about last night, but I think that's where it is. I think Steph's gonna, he's gonna fight to the death. He's a psychotic competitor, but like that's my question, I guess. I think that's where they scored on us a little bit, where we had trouble, and then once we switch AD onto him, but I'm not sure that's something that's you can do right away. You don't want
Sure.
AD switching on Steph, first quarter. What's your line with that? I guess because I thought that was the huge adjustment, like on the YouTube chat where he says should they start AD on Wiggins? I think that will probably be what they do. I don't think they're going to start AD on GP2. I also think I also think it's Jordan Poole that's going to start. So that gives other matchup decisions. But like, where are you at with like LeBron switching on Steph too? I thought was a big part of that fourth quarter. Kind of held his own. But yeah, where's your mind with like switching versus staying your kind of base coverage and kind of playing out of that and waiting kind of till the end, I guess, to throw the switch on them.
Yeah, so I don't like the idea of switching initially, mainly because I think it allows Golden State to quickly identify that they can dictate their coverages if they know you're switching no matter
Exactly.
what. So I like the idea of the base coverage. The other, one of the lone takeaways I had was like if they're going to do this, like it's not heliocentric ball, but it's a version of that because of the usage that Steph had this very
Sure.
last game. You want to play them the way Ty Lue played Luka Doncic, where it's like Luka can go and score 60 points, but we're not going to give him the 12 assists that he normally wants to get every game. You can score 60, and people are going to be like, you're the greatest player of all time. But you're not going to win this game because you're going to be the only one who's shooting the ball. And we're not going to let Clay shoot. We're not going to let Gary Payton or Jordan Poole, or we're not going to give any easy looks to anybody else. And that was something that happened like in the Suns game, Suns game 4. Jokic went off for like 50, but like
Yeah.
everybody else was quiet on that team, and they lost that game. And granted, it took like 80 points combined from KD and Book, but that's because
Hmm.
they don't have their teammates like they normally would helping them out. But like that, I would, if we're going to win a game and Steph is going to be playing the same way he did game 4, that's how I want to win that game. Like I don't want Steph getting 14 assists because if he gets 14
Exactly.
assists and 30 points, we're losing that game more often than not. And so like I would do my base coverage, but I would be more like, look, we might have to leave you on an island here, because we're not just going to blanketly switch this because we can't allow the rest of these guys to get loose. So if that
Yeah.
means that Steph gets hot for a 2-minute stretch and we have to battle our way back, but it's still a game at the end of all of this, then that's just what we're going to do. But then eventually, like if they're trying to do too much, then we can run that switch, or you can occasionally run that switch if you need to, but don't make it like don't make it easy for them to read what we're doing on defense, because once that happens, then Steph is phenomenal. He's going to learn to pick it apart, whichever way he wants to.
Right, yeah, and again, I thought our defense was pretty solid for most of the game. I thought the offense was our issue, but just I know we'll run pretty quick here. But like when you talked about the heliocentrism, I remember like when the Rockets played the Warriors,
Yeah,
the KD Warriors, right? And it was crazy them talking about like, yeah, we didn't really mind going down 15 because we knew that we would walk them down eventually. Like
right.
the Harden would get tired, and we wouldn't give him his assists, so he'd have to step back threes, and we switch everything, and that worked. Like they beat it was close. Like CP, I think got hurt the second half of that series. But yeah, it was so that's kind of the style there. Ty Lue did the same. You're talking about with Luka Doncic, and looks like they might do the same thing with Steph Curry. And I kind of trust AD to make the decision there
Yeah,
on like, should I switch that? Should I hedge it? Or like how far should I be in the drop kind of stuff. You don't
yeah,
really want to fully hedge because that's where you get into issues. But yeah, I kind of trust him there in our back line, and not to overreact. I thought we did. We gave GP2 wide open layups because we really
didn't
overreacted to
respect him.
his.
Yeah,
Yeah, and so like he slipped every screen like you talked about, and they got layups off of that. So we'll see, man. It's just I'm excited. I hope we close out tomorrow.
yeah,
Get a nice long rest. It's been every other day.
yeah. It's taxing, and we only do this like every other day. So like, imagine the people who do content like on a daily basis. I
Oh
mean, you do
man,
content on a daily basis, so it's just like this is stressful just to keep watching these games. And
man.
yeah, it'd be a nice respite. I will say this: if they do go with Poole in the starting lineup as like their final lineup adjustment,
Yeah.
we don't have to worry about him slipping screens because he's probably not setting screens for anybody. He's probably just going
Oh,
to be parked somewhere, waiting to catch and shoot a three or something like that. So the defense might actually get a little bit easier in terms of game planning for certain guys in the motion and whatnot. But like I said, his situation is very
strange, right?
complex. Yeah, very complex. So I don't know if he gets put in the starting lineup, especially after the stuff that came out about him after this past game. It's really weird.
Yeah.
It is weird. I mean, Lakers have had their own drama all regular season with Russ and stuff, so it's not like we're new to any of this stuff
Yeah,
as it is.
sure.
But
They won the I mean, they won the title that's like, like usually you get some grace after a title. It gives you a little
yeah,
bit of like, I'm not saying it's a license to play terrible, but like usually a little bit of like, yeah, you know what, this guy's done it before. But all that seems like also when you get punched in the face by your teammate doesn't really that's like not
doesn't that feel like it was like 3 seasons ago now? Like it was just a couple months back. It's not even
yeah.
like it was
I
like
don't I don't blame him though for like the whole world's like move on, but he's like that didn't hit your face, like so like
Right.
or
Right.
organizations like move on, and he's like, yeah, those knuckles didn't hit your face, so like
Yeah. And I mean,
um
Draymond hasn't had a very good series by any
yeah,
means. So it's just like Poole very clearly is going to get the blame for a lot of it, which I get. But Draymond, like if I was being objective, Draymond also was foolish stepping on Sabonis and getting himself suspended by jeering with this. Like that's like, where's your responsibility to your teammates then? You know what I mean? Like, and Jordan Poole had to help them win the game without him
yeah,
on the floor. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like
that's a
it's
good
just
point.
like there has to be some sort of line when it comes to this, but that's not our problem. If Jordan Poole is
No,
having issues and he's playing badly, that's good for us. And I hope he
exactly.
figures his emotional situation out or whatever it is. But as long as he continues to miss shots as a result of it, I'm all for it. So,
Yes.
Raj, this was awesome as usual. It's really nice to have be this close to the conference finals yet
Oof.
again. It's pretty surreal, especially after the season that we've had so far. Even with just the expectations that we had after the trade deadline, we would have been just happy to make the playoffs with a
Man,
whole brand new roster. And now we're talking about patchwork offenses and defenses and using the 11th man off of our bench to win a game.
all that, we're the tied for the favorite to win the title. Like that,
That's
like that's the
crazy.
betting odds right now. It's us
That's
and
crazy.
Philly are
Yeah.
tied for odds to win the NBA championship in May. That's a hell of a whirlwind to be at where we were.
Yeah.
We're like like a 10% chance to make the playoffs in February. Like it's
Yeah.
just, you know what I mean? So yeah, very exciting and very grateful for the opportunity that we have.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as always, this was a wonderful conversation. And we want to thank the folks that are in the space and the folks that are on the live stream, sending chats, sharing, liking, subscribing, whatever you do. We appreciate you guys. I did want to share some good news that I did share with Raj beforehand. We started doing Lakers Detailed it's only been a couple of weeks, honestly, that we've done this. I don't even think it's been a month. The listenership has like quadrupled, like significantly over the past couple of weeks, and it's been pretty phenomenal to see like just the folks who listen on Spotify or Apple,
Yeah.
even in podcast form. And we can definitely see the spaces number, the audience growing. We get your messages, your DMs, everything. Like it's really wonderful to be able to just talk about Lakers basketball this way in detail. And then we're also very appreciative of the folks that tune in and listen to us, talk to us in the
Yeah.
middle of the night about Lakers basketball. So as always, this stuff doesn't happen without you guys. So we appreciate you taking time out of your day to listen to us. Raj and I will figure out what our next schedule is going to be for our next post. But as long as you follow me or Raj, you'll see it on your Twitter. So you'll always be locked in. If you miss this, you can always re-listen to it on Twitter, or you can find it on Apple and Spotify when I upload it in the morning tomorrow. But other than that, we hope that you guys have a wonderful evening or a wonderful day when you end up hearing this, and we'll see you in the next one. Take it easy.
Peace.